Epilepsy caused by cysts can be treated. Now that researchers have shown a connection between the parasite and epilepsy, can the epileptic patients be treated? Of course. I mean, destroy the parasite. But doing that is the difficult part, I'm sure. Johansson says the answer is yes, but the treatment must be very intensive. Hospitalization with antihelminthic, that's a worm, medication, which is active against parasitic worms, and treatment against both epilepsy and inflammation, plus possible standard treatment with fluids should the patient go into medical shock. We believe that treatment with antihelminthic medicine increases the risk of an epileptic seizure because the dead cysts will release the antigen that triggers a reaction from the patient's immune system, and it's this reaction which is inflammatory that causes the epileptic seizure, she says. So this is interesting. There's many testimonies on the forum Cure Zone I mentioned that talks about people and their experiences with brain parasites. Some people say that, or from what I've seen, most say that it's a very long-term, difficult problem. But there are some posters that I read that have found ways to heal themselves from this condition. Prevention is key. The treatment, however, not only requires a well-functioning hospital, but is also only possible for a very small portion of people affected. Other measures are needed. Prevention. Right. So here's one instance of parasitic activity and how it can affect human behavior, and it comes in the form of parasites that are acquired from ingesting pork and or pork or human excrement. When I was thinking about this article, it reminded me of two scriptures. The first, where it talks about a man that had, I believe it was seizures, and this was in the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 8. Let's see. Yahawashi heals a leper. Here we go. Matthew chapter 8, verse 5. And when Yahawashi was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. Let's go into the word palsy here. And see exactly what this means. Palsy. Paralytic, suffering from the relaxing of nerves of one side. Disabled, weak of limb. Well, this is wasn't quite what I was looking for, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a parasitic connection to that. But the parasitic demonic connection I wanted to get was actually the account of the Messiah casting out demons into swine. Okay, that is also Matthew chapter 8. It's a little bit further down. Okay, Matthew chapter 8, verse 28. And when he was come to the other side into the country of the Gergesenes. There met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Yahawashi, thou Son of the Most High? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from them an herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought them, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea and perished in the waters. Now we know that at this time, first of all, we know that when you commit sin, essentially you are inviting demonic activity on yourself, and it doesn't say how either of these three men or any of these three men acquired their condition, but I posit that there was both a demonic and potentially parasitic, which would be the physical counterpart to the demons, or one such physical counterpart, connection with all three, and quite possibly coming from the action of consuming swine. And I say this because at that time, when our people were becoming Gentiles of the flesh, not of the spirit, but Gentiles of the flesh by following the heathen customs, anyway, this is talked about in 2 Maccabees chapter 6. It says here, okay, moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the southern kingdom, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. So this was at the time of our Grecian captivity, that specifically the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, was suffering at the hands of the Edomite Greeks. And further down it talks about swine flesh being forced upon our people. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 18, Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth and came of his own accord to the torment. So the Greeks were essentially giving people a choice: eat this swine's flesh and sin against your power, or don't and be killed. And rather than stain himself both spiritually but also physically, right? Because within that pork, most likely, were tapeworm eggs. So he'd be staining himself physically as well. He chose to perish at the hands of the Greeks. So by the time the book of Matthew, the events of the book of Matthew rolls around, this was the Roman captivity, which was the second of, I guess you could call, 3 Edomite captivities. I wouldn't be surprised if these Gentiles of the flesh were consuming pork, and that potentially could have led to their conditions. I know there were some things I kind of glossed over, but I will continue to revisit this topic and sort more of these thoughts out in the future. Shalom.